Hi everybody, today for you guys I'm going to be doing a dupes product video, so products that are very similar to like higher end products and products that I think you can save your money on. So basically just some drugstore alternatives to higher end products. I don't have tons, I have a pretty good amount. I mean, I've kind of like packed this makeup bag full, my amazing Spider-Man makeup bag. So I guess there is quite a bit, but I'm not one of those people that really try to go out and find a dupe for a product. If I have the high-end version, I'm not going to look for a drugstore version, and if I have the drugstore version of a high-end product, I'm not going to waste my money and buy the high-end product. So a lot of these are just accidental, like I just happened to have a color very similar or pretty much the same. That's something that I bought in my collection to a high-end or a drugstore product. So anyway, we're just going to get on into it and start with face products. The first two that I have are these brightening facial powders. The first one that I have is this Korres powder, and this is the Wild Rose Compact Powder Brightening / Flawless Finish. So it looks like this. It just comes in like the square packaging that has your mirror, and then if you flip it up a little bit more, you have your sponge in there. And I really do like this powder. I believe that this retails for around $30, so it is quite pricey. I have it in the shade 03 Beige. It's a very silky, very finely milled powder, but a product that I think is very similar to that, as for the brightening effect, is the Physicians Formula Bamboo Wear Powder. So this is actually a powder that I believe you buy separately, and then you buy like this compact to go along with it, which is compact is like super cool. It swivels and you have a brush and then your mirror, and then you swivel that back, and then this part swivels here and you have the actual powder. So very like unique design here. And this powder again is super brightening. I actually think that as far as brightening goes, this powder is a little bit more brightening than the Korres one. And by brightening I mean it has a bit of a sheen to it. The actual powder itself just isn't totally matte. It has a little bit of a glow to it. No sparkle, no shimmer in either of these products. Just really nice glowy, sheeny powders. So if you're drier skin, these are great options. And I definitely think that the Physicians Formula one compares exactly to the Korres one. Very similar in texture, more brightening in finish, so this is a great powder, and I believe that this retails for about $15 if you buy the compact and then the powder together. I think that that's how much it ends up being. Another powder that I have here is the MAC Mineralized Skin Finish Natural, and I've been using this a lot to set my under eye concealer recently just because I have it. It's a little bit light for my skin tone, and I think it looks very natural in that area. But I have mentioned this before as being just like any other powder. So when I was going through and trying to find a dupe for this, I find that there's a lot of powders that I have that kind of dupe it because I don't really see what the big fuss is over this. To me, it's just another natural looking powder. There's a million like this out there. But the closest that I could find as far as being just a very natural finish goes is the Revlon Nearly Naked. This powder is actually a lot more creamier in texture than the MAC MSF, and I think that the overall effect is very similar. It gives a very, very natural appearance to the skin. You can't tell that you have any powder on. It doesn't cake up. You can use it to touch up throughout the day without having to worry about your makeup starting to look cakey. So both really good powders. I believe that this is around the $28 mark and this is around like the $8 mark. So I think that if you're looking for a good dupe for the MAC MSF Natural, definitely look into the Revlon Nearly Naked powder. Moving on to a powder foundation, this is the L'Oreal True Match Naturel Gentle Mineral Makeup, and I mentioned this in my L'Oreal brand overview as being a great dupe for the Bare Minerals Matte Foundation. So if you're looking for a dupe for the Bare Minerals Foundation, I think that the L'Oreal True Match Naturel is the best drugstore mineral foundation I've ever tried because it has great coverage, it has great blendability, the texture is very soft, very finely milled, it just feels really nice, and overall I think that the two powders are very similar. The L'Oreal True Match Naturel also comes in a great wide range of shades, just like the Bare Minerals Matte Foundation. So two great products that I think are very comparable to each other. For an actual sort of foundation-y product here, I have the NARS Pure Radiant Tinted Moisturizer and the Neutrogena Healthy Skin Glow Shears. These two are basically the same exact product, except the NARS one is like 3 times as expensive. The NARS Tinted Moisturizer has a lot of really good skincare ingredients in it. It gives you pretty good coverage for tinted moisturizer. It has an SPF of 30, and it's a good product overall. When I tried the Neutrogena Healthy Skin, I was so shocked by how similar these two products were. The Healthy Skin Glow Shears is kind of the same idea, tinted moisturizer. It also has SPF 30, and I think the coverage is very much so the same. They both give a very radiant effect to the skin, very glowy, very dewy. Definitely, if you're oily, you might want to stay away from these products. And the Neutrogena Healthy Skin Glow Shears also has great skincare benefits since it's part of the Healthy Skin line, so it won't like break you out. It's going to add some extra nutrients to your skin. It's just got good stuff in it. So these are pretty much, I think, the same exact product. When I wear them, I can't tell the difference. By the way, I'm in the shade Fair to Light in this and Alaska Light 2 in the NARS one, and I just kind of feel like if you were interested in the NARS tinted moisturizer but you didn't want to spend the money, the Neutrogena Glow Shears is a great option. Both, like I said, very glowy, dewy tinted moisturizers that are very good for your skin. Alrighty, moving on to some eye dupes. The first one I'm going to start with is not really a dupe color-wise like the rest of these will be. It's just sort of like concept-wise, and I've mentioned this in my past favorites video. The Physicians Formula Nude palette and the Too Faced Boudoir Eyes palette are very, very similar in their overall sort of layout and color scheme. The Too Faced Boudoir Eyes palette features just a wide range of grays and champagnes and cooler tone shadows, just like the Physicians Formula Nude palette does. I think that overall the Physicians Nude palette is a little bit more shimmery. There's not really a matte color in here, but if you like those sort of champagnes and taupes and gray colors, this would be a great dupe for the Too Faced palette if you're not wanting to spend the money on the Too Faced one. The dupe that I have here is for MAC's Beauty Marked eyeshadow, which I have in my MAC palette, and it is this little sucker right there. I did a video recently going through all of my MAC eyeshadows. I think that that may be posted by now. If not, I'll post it soon after this. And I mentioned how I honestly feel like MAC's Beauty Marked, as it falls, is literally the worst eyeshadow I have ever tried in my entire life. It's patchy, it's barely pigmented, and there's a great spot-on, way better dupe for it in the Wet n Wild Lust palette, which by the way is just full of different MAC dupes that I'll go through in just a second. So this is a swatch of MAC's Beauty Marked, just not pigmented. The texture of it is very gritty. That beautiful red sparkle that it has just doesn't show up. And the Wet n Wild Lust version, which is sort of on like the second row here, 2 down, is dead on color-wise. It's that black burgundy with that beautiful reddish burgundy shimmer running through it. So much more pigmented, so much more intense, way more blendable. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And the other dupes I've been able to find in this palette similar to the MAC shadows are, this first one is very similar to Yogurt, that sort of pinky cream color. The second one is very similar to Fig 1, a pinky purple. The last one is very similar to MAC's Sketch. It's just a little bit more purpley and not as warm. The creamy color here is a lot like MAC's Vanilla. It's got a tiny little bit of sparkle in it. And then of course you have Beauty Marked, and then this gray shade is just like MAC's Night Divines. So if you're looking for a good palette that has tons of different MAC eyeshadow dupes, go for the Wet n Wild Lust palette. It's one of my favorite drugstore eye palettes in general, and like I said, beats a lot of those MAC eyeshadows, especially that Beauty Mark shade. It's absolutely stunning in this palette. Not so much from MAC. Another dupe for shadows able to find in my MAC palette is MAC Shroom, which isn't necessarily a difficult color to replicate, but I thought I'd give you another palette from Wet n Wild that had another MAC dupe in it. So the first one that's similar to Shroom is from the Walking on Eggshells palette, and this is the Brow Bone shade. The reason that I think that this is such a good dupe is that it has that beautiful sheen like MAC Shroom does. It's very creamy in texture, looks beautiful on the brow bone, so very, very similar colors. But the eyelid shade from this Wet n Wild Walking on Eggshells trio is very similar to Naked Lunch. And when I swatched Naked Lunch and swatched this, I decided not to pick up MAC's Naked Lunch because the eyelid shade was just, in this palette, was just way too similar for me to justify the $14 I would spend on the MAC shadows. So I just kind of stick to this for my Naked Lunch dupe, and I really, really like it. And then finally, my last eyeshadow dupe, which is for another MAC shadow. This is MAC's All the Glitters, which I mentioned is one of my favorite shadows from MAC in my MAC eyeshadows video. And when I first initially got this, I thought that I would never be able to find a shade that would compare to this. I thought that this was just gorgeous, very unique. But then I discovered CoverGirl's eyeshadow in Mink, and this is a dead on match. There's seriously no difference between these two. They look exactly the same on the lid. I could wear one on one eye, one on the other, and nobody would be able to tell. And this is like $2 or $3 at your drugstore. So if you're wanting to save money and not go with Max All the Glitters, which is a very popular shade, looks gorgeous on everybody, definitely try CoverGirl's Mink. Dead on dupe, really, really pretty, and I highly recommend that. Moving on to some lip products, the first one that I have here is MAC's Cream Cup. And I don't know why all these have ended up being MAC dupes. I really didn't do that on purpose. But MAC's Cream Cup is sort of your everyday pink shade. On me, I don't love it because it's very like pink, and I've mentioned this in my Starbucks and cream frappuccino tutorial, that it just looks kind of odd on my complexion. But a good dupe for it, and a color that I actually think looks a little bit more flattering on me personally, is Revlon's Color Burst lipstick in Petal. Pretty much dead on in color. The only thing that Petal has a little bit different, has a slightly warmer sheen to it, so I think it's a lot more flattering on warmer skin tones, but the actual color and the actual shade is dead on. So really good dupe for MAC's Cream Cup if you're interested in that. And then the next lipstick dupe that I have is for Buxom's lipstick in Brooklyn, and this is one of their Big and Healthy lipsticks, I think are what these are called. And this is just a little tiny guy that I got from Sephora with some Point Perk, and I love this. This is one of my favorite shades for the fall. Really pretty deep, rosy brown wine shade. And a color very similar to that is NYX's Round lipstick in the shade Perfect. I think that I prefer the formulation of the Buxom lipstick more. It definitely is more creamy. It holds on to your lips a little bit better, but the NYX Round lipstick is so much less expensive, and if you're looking for this type of a color for fall, I think that you would really enjoy the NYX one. And then finally, I have a blush dupe here. This is for the Cargo Blush in Catalina, which is a very popular pink blush, just sort of your standard baby doll pink. And a color very similar to that is from Milani, and this is the Powder Mosaics blush in Sweet Cheeks. I find that if you swirl these two bottom colors here, which are sort of like a mid-tone pink and then a very, very light pink, you get the same exact shade. Overall, the Milani blush in Sweet Cheeks is just a beautiful pink blush. I've mentioned it before in previous favorites videos, and while I do really like the Cargo blush, I actually feel like the Milani one has a better texture. I think it looks better on my complexion, and the Cargo one I definitely don't think is worth your money. So those are all the dupes that I have. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. Let me know if you'd like me to do more dupes videos in the future, and I'll talk to you all later. Bye-bye.